Doctors, how credible are you with your patients? Hi, everybody. Welcome to the KC Chiropulse podcast, where you find all the latest innovative information for managing your practice. I'm Dr. Michael Perush. This is Dr. Troy Fox. We are your hosts of the podcast. We also want to thank Chiro Health USA for being one of our amazing sponsors. You guys are awesome. So, Troy, are you credible with your patients?
That's a really good question. And I think that depends on several different things. And, I look at it from a standpoint of number one, are you comfortable with recommendations for patients? Because if you don't believe what you're telling patients, they're not going to believe what you tell them.
Okay, you're absolutely right. But I want to stop on that one because I think that's a major point.
Right.
If you don't believe it, your patients don't believe it. And we trigger this all the time. Doctors in the profession trigger this all the time by letting patients know, well, we don't really believe this, because the minute the patient says, well, I didn't expect it to be that much, what do? I tell you what we can do. We can eliminate the decompression, and that'll soften the cost for you. Well, you just shot yourself in the foot. You just told the patient that you're right. It's too expensive. I've got stuff in there we don't need. I just killed my doctor authority. What do you want to do, Mr. Patient?
Or you backpedal the second you make a treatment recommendation. You say, but if you start feeling better earlier, we'll just discontinue this treatment program.
Yeah.
And so you really don't believe what you're telling the patient. Like, let's just say, for example, let's put a short treatment plan together. Let's just do 3 times a week for 2 weeks with a reevaluation at the end of it. Wouldn't that be pretty easy to do? And wouldn't you say most patients maybe are going to be pain-free by the end of that 2 weeks? But is it likely that they're going to be completely functional at the end of 2 weeks? I'd say most of us would say one,
Pain-free, yeah.
Yeah, probably a pretty good chance.
Probably close.
2, probably not going to be there.
Probably not.
But we're going to be on the right track at that point. And the reduction of pain is a good indicator that we're improving function. But when you lay the patient down on the table and palpate them, and they still got range of motion restriction, they've still got pain upon, motion palpation, all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, the problem's not gone. It's just ducted below the surface. We need to talk to patients about that up front. That's a good preemptive conversation for doctor authority, that if you preempt what's going to happen in advance, and we know 99% of the time, that's exactly how it works. Every once in a while, you have to pivot a little bit, but for the most part, that's how it works. So if my patient knows that at the beginning, and I'm explaining what's going to happen, look how much authority I have at that point. Because now they go, just like you said, Doc, my pain's going down, but yeah, I can tell I'm still a little bit of stiff on certain movements, swing the golf club yet or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you just brought up a good word, preemptive. We're getting preempted by a quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Notice how I jutted that
was
right
cute.
in there.
That was really cute.
But we're talking about doctor authority and how credible, doctors, are you with your patients? Are you establishing your professional presence? We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Affordable care shouldn't mean undervaluing yourself, but most chiropractors are still undercharging, especially when it comes to insurance allowances and cash patients with limited coverage. Chiro Health USA helps chiropractors charge appropriately, get paid well when insurance is available, and still serve patients with no or limited benefits, all through a compliant discount medical plan. The result? Doctors stop undercharging, raise fees, and increase income by about 20% without sacrificing care. That's not a discount strategy, it's a business strategy. Learn more at chirohealthusa.com.
Okay, everybody, I just want to preempt you that we are back. There's that word again. That word's incredibly important, though. You bring up a whole nother level of doctor authority, and that's preemptive communication. And we may be getting out of any kind of sequence here. I don't know that we ever have a sequence, but
nah.
But preemptive communication becomes so important because, okay, I'll just give you a great example, docs. You have a patient comes in, they get their reported findings, they get their first day adjustment. Okay. Is there a likelihood that they're going to go home and feel better? Yeah. Is there a likelihood they're going to go home and feel no different? Yeah. Is there a likelihood they're going to go home and feel worse?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So what if we don't prep the patient for any of that? Well, let's go through those again. If they go home and they feel better, okay, that's great. We just look like the hero. We can get by without preempting that one. But since we don't know, we better preempt the other two. Hey, Mr. Patient, Miss Patient, some people after the first adjustment or two feel a little worse. Some don't feel anything at all. Some feel a little bit better. I have no idea where you will fall. But if you have pain when you get home tonight, here's what I want you to do. Okay. That's preemptive communication. That's setting your doctor authority and creating that professional presence, with the patient and telling them that information up front so that when they get home and they feel worse, they go, oh, yeah, Dr. Fox told me that I might feel a little worse. The guy's brilliant. He even told me what to do to try to manage it at home on my own. I don't need to panic. I don't need to call the office and say, I'm never coming back again because you hurt me. That's
That's
doctor authority.
and that's preempt number one. Now, this is a little different take on doctor authority, but let's talk about finances for a minute. So the next question the
Oh, yeah.
patient asks me is, how much is this going to cost? And my response is not, well, the adjustment is blah, 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 and the exam is blah, 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 and the x-rays are blah, blah, blah. My response is, I don't know, but I'm going to get you in front of one of the front desk folks, and they're going to talk you through this, and they're going to put together a plan that we for every patient. So that way there's no surprises for you. No surprises, right?
Yep.
We're going to put together a plan with no surprises. So you can see the exact cost of the plan we're putting together. Does that sound great? And they're like, yeah, fantastic. I never talked about money because I'm not going to talk about money.
No, because you need that boundary as the doctor. Now, if you're in the practice by yourself, you don't have a choice, but you need a boundary with the patient between you and the finances. Otherwise, they're going to want to play let's make a deal with you. They can't play let's make a deal with the front desk because the front desk never has that authority to play let's make a
Right.
deal. So you just hit the ball out of the park by doing a little bit of preemptiveness, but at the same time, you created a boundary using your doctor authority to make sure that the patient's never going to ask you about finances. That's huge.
And I think those are two big ones. If you accomplish those two, that you're preemptive in communication and that you're preemptive with the financial side of things, and that you follow through with your plan and that you use table talk every day. I could keep adding to the list, but that's really, I mean, the big four right there, you
Yeah.
know,
It's huge.
and it's all about communication.
It's all about communication.
I see
another-
I see too
Yep.
many docs that walk into the room and want to avoid that discussion. So they'll ask, well, how's the weather out there today? You know, what did you do today? And how are the kids? Blah, 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 or whatever. And really never get to the conversation of here's what needs to be done. And that is a stab to the heart. And then you wonder why patients quit. And you're trying to look at your stats. If you actually have stats, hopefully you do. Hopefully you actually track something. If not, talk to us. But
Please.
if you're not tracking stats and you have no idea, then you're just kind of running willy nilly. It's like running a lemonade stand and not knowing how many lemonades you sold yesterday.
It's
And-
dust in the wind.
And then when you only sold 2 the day after that, and you realize after the fact that you didn't put sugar in the lemonade, you kind of know why and you can correct course. But if you don't remember that you didn't put sugar in the lemonade, in other words, if you're not having that same conversation with every patient, now all of a sudden you're left wondering, why did these patients quit care with me? Did they not like me? Did they not think chiropractic care was effective? No, a lot of it has to do with the fact that you just didn't communicate.
Or they didn't like your lemonade.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So stop serving refreshments.
Right.
No, seriously. Sometimes I think doctors get the idea that doctor authority comes from trying to make patients your friend. And it's great to be nice and professional and those kind of things. But when we step over the friend boundary, you lose the patient because now they've got you. They can quit anytime they want, and you can't do anything about it because they're your friend. So doctor authority is also maintaining that doctor-patient relationship in a very strong manner and always being not only communicative with the patient, but truthful with the patient and telling the patient, here's your condition. Here's how it's potentially going to progress on you if you don't do anything. And don't tell them the subluxation is going to kill them. Now, maybe there's some studies out there that suggest 100 years from now you're going to die from a subluxation. I'll probably get all kinds of hate mail for this. I'll
Probably so.
redirect it to you. But seriously, guys and gals, be truthful with the patient. At some point, if we just look at the laws of physiology, Wolfsall says that abnormal pressure on normal tissue, this is eventually going to degrade and turn into probably an arthritic condition. And we don't want that to happen. Mr. Patient,
Mhm.
Miss Patient, no, of course not. That's doctor authority. That's leading the patient down the path of true analogy of what's going to happen in the future so they understand why they need your care today.
But I think you brought up an important point too, because a lot of times as we're in a community for longer and longer, we do have a lot of friends that come in for care.
Sure.
And I had a great example of that the other day. I had a really close friend I've known him since I was 18 years old, and he doesn't live in town, but so he wasn't getting chiropractic care from me. And I'll be darned, no matter what I said, he wasn't getting chiropractic care from anybody. And then he had that day, that incident, that I can't get my socks on incident. Who did
Yep.
he call? My office.
Yep.
He had somebody drive him 50 miles to come to my office to see me. You know how I handled it? I didn't handle it like my best friend from 40 years ago. I mean, I'm old, obviously. I'm 60 years old. So that was
Jeez, Troy.
41 years I've known this guy. You know what happened when he walked in the door? He went through the same process that every new patient goes through. He went through an exam. He went through X-rays. He and the reason he went through X-rays is because he had red flags for it, right?
Sure.
We use all the rules. He sent me a text, and it was the coolest text after I treated him on the first day. And it started, I had no idea how professional you are and how much knowledge that you have about the human body and the spine. And I was amazed when you were sitting there and telling me everything. And I totally understand my condition now. And I can't wait to continue with care. Now, that is a friend who came in that I treated like a patient. We can
Yep.
still be friends, but when you come through that door and you're in my room, now all of a sudden the doctor hat's going to go on and my doctor authority comes in play, because at that point, my whole job is to make you understand what's going on with you, how significant it could be down the road if you don't take care of this, and not just treat it flippantly like, hey, you're a friend. We'll adjust you a couple times and see what happens.
That's
It's a whole
exactly
different ballgame. And to get that text message from him, it was a lot longer than that. There were several paragraphs of things that he highlighted, but I was like, whoa. And it's a professional guy. This guy is, he runs a bunch of people in the grocery industry, and he has a bunch of employees underneath him. So he's in a high management position. He understands how things work. But when it came to my office, he did not realize just how comprehensive chiropractic was. So it blew his mind. And that was because I went through the process. I didn't just bring him in as a friend and say, oh, hey, come through the side door.
Right. I was the same way in practice, friend or foe, you went through the same process to become a patient in the clinic. And if you had an incident, guess what? It's time for exam. It might be time for x-rays or other diagnostic imaging. We're going to follow the rules. I'm going to use my doctor authority to treat you like a real regular patient. And I never had a friend who didn't appreciate it. And I heard the
Yeah.
same things you did.
And they tend to get better faster when you do it that way, and more completely, because we're doing a complete job. We're actually not trimming down what we do and trying to present it to our friend as, hey, I'm being a really good friend to you. Being a really good friend is going, I'm going to treat you like I would one of my own family members.
Absolutely. And to kind of piggyback off that, not really about friends, but I think doctor authority also is that conscious professional presence of being able to say no sometimes. When you've got a patient who is belligerent or doesn't want to pay a bill or wants a special deal or, whatever it might be, has red flags that you shouldn't be treating, but you go ahead and treat it because you just feel like you need the extra collections that day. Sometimes we have to say no to people. And we talked about this at length on one of our recent virtual seminars. There's a lot of doctors out there that don't use their doctor authority to say no, and they wind up with patients in their clinic who are not good for the clinic. They become abusive. They really don't belong in the clinic. Maybe they're not really a chiropractic uh, patient. Maybe they don't like being adjusted or understand why they're there. Or there's a lot of scam artists out there right now too that will look for you, docs who don't say no up front, and then they'll turn around and they'll grift you. So you got to be careful. So you got to use that doctor authority. It's almost like a shield between you and the patient that says, I'm the one in charge here.
And I think it's really hard sometimes. It's scary to cut ties with the patient because you are running a business and it's no different than anything else. Nobody wants to lose a client, right? I don't care if it's my accountant or if it's a chiropractic office or if it's a lemonade stand. We'll go back to that. You want your clients, right? But I'm going to call it the rule of threes. I don't know. This is not a real rule, but I just made this up because this is kind of how it seems to me. Whenever I release a patient that's got bad juju, in other words, they're coming into my practice, and I had one that not too long ago said, it must be hard in here all day long dealing with all these people in pain. And this is a patient that had been kind of a bit of a problem and
Mhm.
really sucked up a lot of my time, would not follow recommendations. And when they came in, demanded that I spend a lot of time with them. They wanted to go through their whole history again every time. And it's like, man, you are literally wearing on my last nerve. And I am trying to be kind. When they said that, I said, you know what's interesting is I would say 95% of the people that you just saw motoring through this building right now are all here for wellness care. They've all improved their condition and they are now trying to maintain either through palliative care or wellness care, whatever you want to call it. And so they're
Yep.
not in pain when they're coming in. They're coming in to get their adjustment. And that person looks at me and they go, well, that's ridiculous. I would never do that. So what I did at the end of that treatment with that patient, rather than make a recommendation, I said, you know what? How about you just call me? I'm not going to worry about putting you back on the schedule because obviously your concern is only when you're in pain. And they were like, well, why would you do that? And I said, because you have never followed through with my recommendations,
Yeah,
nor
you
do you
don't
intend
appreciate
to.
the care.
And I didn't let them even say another word. I said, you have a good day today. And
Yep.
I handed them the paperwork that they needed to go back up front. And I basically released, I said, once they got up front, the staff said, yeah, they were a little rude when they got up front. I said, yeah, they won't be back. And so we released them. And you know what happened right behind that? And this happens often. Either I'll have a phone call. Hey, I've been seeing another chiropractor and I just moved to town. I got adjusted 2 weeks ago. And I'll get those in twos and threes after I release a patient. It's almost like
Not
God says,
crazy.
you know what? The laws of nature say you got rid of some bad juju. We're going to put three good ones in place.
Yep.
I don't know. It
Happens
just
every time.
happens all the time. And I know you've experienced that as well.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you release bad energy, good energy comes in its place. I don't know how else to explain it. And a lot of
No, it's absolutely true. And I can think of a patient that I turned their juju around. Then this happened more than once. I can just think of this one just off the top of my
uh,
head. This person came in for an exam. They'd been referred for a second opinion in a PI case, and they didn't want to be there. This patient was madder than a wet hen for having to be there. She didn't understand why they were there. Just moaned about everything. Wouldn't give me any information. I finally just this back when we had charts. I finally just took the chart. I stood up and I said, you know what? I got other patients I need to see. I don't have time for this. I wish you the best of luck. My staff at the front, I'll help you out to your car. Have a great day. And
yeah,
before I even turned to reach for the doorknob, the patient had completely changed. Oh, no, no,
yeah,
doc, don't leave, don't leave, don't leave. I need to get this done. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's doctor authority. I didn't bow down to that patient. And you know what? You just have to realize you don't have to be the authority. Be the authority.
it's your practice. And quite
Yeah.
frankly, every time that you short sell yourself in your own practice, eventually what happens is, and I hate to see this, but it happens. You short sell yourself so many times and you degrade yourself that
Yep.
you become a technician and you are no longer the doctor with authority. You are now you're now the guy that pops people's backs or the girl that pops people's backs. And I hate to see that. So, from a standpoint of doctor authority, it makes your life much better too. You're so much happier in practice because now people are coming to you and you'll know when you've achieved that level of doctor authority. And here's how because your patients will start coming to you with things that have nothing to do with chiropractic. And they will say, "Hey, doc, well, I'm here getting adjusted today. I wanted to ask you about this bariatric procedure that I'm having. Do you know anything about it?" Well, yes, I
Yep.
do, actually. And a lot of times we do, because we as
Sure.
chiropractors are willing to learn about what other professions do. It's amazing.
Sure.
Whereas in a lot of cases, they have no
Sponges.
idea what you're doing. You might be adjusting a patient with activator, and that provider will tell them, "Oh, you shouldn't get adjusted because blah, blah, blah." And I'm looking at it, and the patient says, "Hey, I'm having this bariatric surgery. What can you offer me on this?" And I can talk them through what I know. Or if I don't know, I'm going to tell them, "Hey, I'm not familiar with that procedure."
Sure.
But when you got patients that start coming to you with questions about other procedures, or "I want to ask you before I go to somewhere, do you think this is the right decision or the right person to go to?" Now you know that you have authority in the situation. And it's not like you're holding them over a barrel. It's just like, okay, you're in a proper position now that the patient absolutely implicitly trust what you have to say. So next
Yep.
time they come into your office with a musculoskeletal problem, you don't have to water down the response that you're going to give to the patient. You just tell them, "Here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it." And they go, "Okay,"
Yeah.
end of story. And you get to work.
Yeah. I became known in our community as the go-to for second opinions on upper and lower extremity and spinal MRIs
Mhm.
because the medical doctors were taking too long to get back to the patient. The patient wanted to know what's going on with me. I would pick up so many patients by that, but that's authority, like you were just talking about.
Yeah.
We need to take another quick break, but I've got one other area of practice where you need to use your doctor authority, and I'm sure we could come up with a dozen, but we'll be right back.
Patient numbers dipping, staff overwhelmed, and another marketing idea promising the world but delivering nothing. These pressures feel familiar to nearly every chiropractic clinic today. Across the country, chiropractors work hard, yet many find themselves stuck, balancing patient care with the nonstop demands of running a business. That's where the real strain begins. Most clinics face the same set of hurdles: inconsistent new patient flow, operational bottlenecks, and the constant challenge of staying visible in an overcrowded digital space. National reports show that over 60% of clinics struggle with scheduling efficiency alone, and even more lack a clear marketing strategy that reliably converts. But the good news? These challenges aren't roadblocks, they're signals. With the right procedures, smarter outreach, and guidance built specifically for chiropractic practices, clinics can turn daily stress into sustainable growth. Stronger clinics start with smarter strategies. Grow your practice with confidence. Book your strategy session with CATS Consultants.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. We are talking about doctor authority and that one other place that I mentioned before the break that we absolutely need doctor authority. And I'm going to do a little lead in here and Troy jump in. I hear doctors say all the time, I can't get my staff to do anything. I can't get them to do this. They don't want to train. They don't want to talk to patients. They don't want to advance. They don't want to schedule patients' treatment plans, whatever it might be. And I immediately think, well, this is because you don't have doctor authority with your staff. And I
Mhm.
think that's just as important as having doctor authority with your patients. If you don't have doctor authority with your staff, they're not going to believe your treatment plans with patients, and that's going to come through in their communication with patients. They're not going to understand the cost of care, and that's going to come through to your patients. And make that front and center in your practice that if you want a good, high quality, effective team behind you, it starts with your doctor authority.
I got to see that firsthand because when I came back and bought the practice that I'm currently in, I had all new staff that had never been exposed to chiropractic before.
Mhm.
Didn't understand it. They were learning, they were going through the steps, they were learning, we were training how to use the software,
Sure.
how do we schedule, how do we talk to patients. But they didn't know anything about me. And they didn't know a whole lot about what I knew. So in the beginning, they never leaned on me. They never leaned on me because I didn't have doctor authority with them. But what they saw was, is I started to work with patients and I started to become the go-to with patients. And this is how it happened for me. Maybe I put the cart before the horse, but what I did is I let the patients, or I let the staff see that doctor authority with patients and the amount of information that I was given to patients. And my staff started to learn from that. They started to roll with it. And then what would happen was they'd get a phone call. Next thing you know, they're back with me. Hey, doc, I just got a phone call and blah, blah, blah. What can you tell me? And they'll do it right in front of another patient while I'm getting ready to adjust them, which again helps with what you're doing in practice. When patients get to see you in action on the fly, they're like, whoa, this guy knows a lot, or this gal knows a lot. They answered that question right off the top of their head, and it was a pretty detailed answer.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that my staff is at a point now where it doesn't matter what somebody calls about. They go, hey, hold on, let me go ask the doctor. And if I'm super busy, they'll ask me over the lunch hour. It's not like they come in and interrupt me all the time, but
Sure.
they know if they have the availability, and if it's kind of a laid back time, they'll just pop their head in and say, can I ask you a quick question? Because they know it could be 3 hours before they get to. So a lot of times they'll come in and pop a quick answer and go back out to the patient. It's either, hey, you need to go here, or hey, we could take a look at you, kind of thing. And here's why. So that kind of authority with your staff makes a huge difference as well, because if your staff, again, doesn't buy into what we're doing, they're not going to help further your practice. They're going to hurt it. I'm going to give you a really nasty, great example. So back in 1999, 2000, we were at that time running a very large practice in the state of Kansas. I was the only doctor in the building. We had about 9 people working for us at that time, because it's back in the insurance days, right? You had 2 or 3 that are just doing insurance.
Correct.
So 9 people working for us. And I had 2 clinics, one there and one about 30 miles away. When we hired that 9th person, we were looking for somebody that could be a therapist. And this is no kidding. This is a true story. It's going to sound not real. We hired this person. She seemed pretty sharp, pretty with it, had really good linguistic skills, had very good patient dialogue right off the bat. Well, come to find out, she'd worked for an orthopedic surgeon at one point. Oh, okay, great. Fantastic. So she had a little bit of the lingo, which I thought was great. She worked with patients very kind. So about day 3, Diane, my number one, she was the rock star. She was the one that was with me for the longest. She comes burning into my office hot. You need to take care of this right now. I said, what happened? She said, this gal that I had hired pulled the curtain with the patient it was a simple low back case. Like they didn't have there were no red flags. It was a simple low back case, no disc involvement. It was a facet problem. I'd already done all the testing on him. And so I got him in, we got him on some therapy. And she's putting this guy on therapy. This gal says, you are in the wrong office. You need to see an orthopedic surgeon. And here's his card.
Oh my.
You can imagine that less than 3 minutes later, everything that she owned that was in that practice was in a box. And she was heading towards the back door, courtesy of Bridget.
Love it.
Bridget was in the building, and some of you don't know Bridget. Bridget she's no nonsense. She's
no nonsense.
You guys know Marissa? It's literally Marissa's twin from a different mother.
Pretty much.
It was no nonsense. She went and got a box, said, get your stuff, and took her out the side door, and she was gone. True story. If your staff does not buy into what you're doing, sometimes you have no control over that, right? I had no control over that. That was just a crazy situation. But that is an absolute true story that happened in my practice. And I was flabbergasted.
Wow.
And we didn't save the patient.
Well, no, not by then.
Nope. They left.
Nope. They'd already put doubt in patients' mind.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you want good training with staff. You want staff buy-in, but you can't force it. You do not become a great leader by forcing it. Well, you do if you're Gaddafi. But other than that, we won't talk about Iran right now. That's a whole different story. I'll use Gaddafi because that was a pretty good example. If you're Gaddafi, you rule by fear and people listen. But in your chiropractic practice, I tell you that probably didn't go work very well. So you have to have authority, and the way you get authority is through people learning how knowledgeable you are and how much you care.
Yes,
that's really the key.
I wrote this out this morning about authority because I knew we were going to talk about this. It's leadership without arrogance, confidence without rigidity, boundaries without hostility, and competence without apology. And when you carry yourself with that level of authority in your practice, when you have that professional presence about you, it's amazing what happens in your practice. It explodes. So if you need help with doctor authority or anything else in managing your practice, that's what we do here at Katz Consultants. So give us a call. Go check out our website, Katz with a K, katzconsultants.com. Whole bunch of free downloads on there. Go check us out. See what we're doing to help chiropractors manage their practices and, most importantly, create profitable practices that fit their lifestyle. Troy, anything else?
I think we covered it, man. That was a really good one. I mean, if you guys are looking to engage your practice at a higher level, this is a great topic to talk about.
Absolutely. All right. From all of us at Katz Consultants, thanks for tuning in this week. Tune in every week. Share, like, subscribe, wherever it is.
Yeah.
And we appreciate all of you. And thanks to Chiro Health USA for being one of our sponsors. You guys are the bomb. Okay. From all of us, we'll see you next time.
See ya.